Now we're ready to implement our first void function in our ATM simulator program. So this is part 2 of the 5-part series. You can tell that a function is a void function, that it won't return any information, because when we call that function, we're not going to be storing the returned result in anything. For example, this function getOption is going to give us back some information, and we're going to store it in that variable option. But showMenu, when we call showMenu, it's just gonna go do its thing and then come right back. So how this works is when you call a function, showMenu, the program goes down to where that function is defined. So that's what the def means. It's defined down here. And then it'll execute all of the statements in the function, and then it just returns, and then it'll go to the next function. So all it's doing is giving a name to a group of functions. It's kind of like a box of statements, and there's a name to that box. So in our planning document, the planning will be very simple. So here we'll do our show menu function, and the first step is just to print the first. I'm just going to say print the menu. Okay, that's all it's going to do, and then it's just going to return back to the calling function. So I'm going to go up here, back here, and we're ready to implement that. So let's go to our sample run and see what that menu looks like. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, and then I will put it in here. And I'm just going to print. So I'm just going to print these menu items. So I could just take these and I could replace that, right? And then indent it, of course. And it would do the same thing. But that adds 4 lines of code into my main function, right? And so I can abstract that and just call the show menu function instead. So I'll back that out like that. But it's just, that's all you're doing, is taking some code out of a function and putting it in another function and giving it a name. And then this return down here is not needed. So what return means is just go back to wherever this function was called from. Remember, there's 2 parts to a function. This is the function definition, and this is the function call. These statements will not execute until this function is called right here. Okay, this is just setting up the function for later. And when I call the function here, the flow goes down to the function definition, prints all these things, and then returns back here. And then line 16 will be executed next. You don't have to have a return. That's optional. It will automatically add a return at the bottom and go back to where it was called from. So let's run our program, and we can see main is executed, which prints the welcome message, and then while the option is not equal to quit. So quit is 4, and option we initialize to 0. So it'll hop into the while loop. It'll execute the show menu function, which will print all of these statements, and then it's going to call the getOption function. And what the getOption function is doing right now, it's just returning a dummy number 4. Okay, there's no logic in this function. We just have this as a stub, right? This is what we're going to call it, a stub. So it returns 4, and 4 is placed into that option variable. And then it goes through the if, else, right? And since it's not a 1, a 2, a 3, it'll go ahead and print, thank you for using the star ATM. And there you have it. And the only thing I'm not really super happy about is that there isn't a blank line. It's kind of, everything's kind of squished together. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll add a new line there, and then I'm going to just print a blank line like that before the show menu function, or right when the show menu function executes. So it'll print a blank line, and then it'll print the menu. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, much better.